Hi YouTube, and welcome to the fifth and final video on 50 Airwaysim tips. So yes, this is the fifth one, which suggests there have been 4 other ones. So if this is the first one you see, make sure you visit the other 4 as well, because it gives you an overview of the other 40 tips so far, and they're kind of coming in order and give you an overview on tips you have to take into consideration. And for those of you who have been watching eagerly on all these tips, you will have noticed predominantly I've been focusing on passenger related aircrafts and tips related to that. In today's video I can also let you know that there'll be 5 tips here that will cover cargo specific tips. So let's start with the first tip from today, and it's tip 41, is to understand the heavy maintenance check costs. So these are the C&D checks. These can be quite costly, and when you own the aircraft, these costs are actually added back to the value of your aircraft, so it increases the value of your aircraft again, which has an impact then on the depreciation value. So the way the depreciation model works is that over a period of 25 years your aircraft depreciates, and specifically you can very much see this in if you go and do the third D check, which it tends to happen around the 24th year of the aircraft. The final year the depreciation cost will be very, very high, because it's depreciating the last D check, which tends to be very costly, over that last period of year, and it will show potentially that you're running at a loss. But this is not true from a cash impact, but purely from a profit perspective. You will see, yes, the aircraft will not make a profit, but it's important to understand that the value or the cost of a maintenance check for C&D checks do get added back to the value of the aircraft if you are owning the aircraft. Point 42 is it's important to regularly reset your prices. So there's an easy way of doing that under the pricing management tool, where you can just reset the prices and then apply your pricing strategy. We would not recommend just to run a default pricing. Typically just slightly above default pricing is what we recommend. I did mention in earlier videos that pricing is not elastic, so you don't have to go and lower the prices to get a lot more load factors. It's not like the real life model, but sometimes it can be worthwhile if you see a competitor struggling and you want to give them a final push. Just reset your pricing maybe, and it's important just to regularly do this, because inflation kicks in and staff costs go up, and your default prices will go up over time as well. So keep an eye on that and make sure you apply your own pricing strategy accordingly when you do this. Point 43 is use launch discounts. So when new aircraft models are launched, there's a notification in a new section which says, look, this new model has been made available. You typically will get an additional 10% discount to be a launch customer. And this is over a certain period in the beginning when an aircraft is made available. It's typically just over a day in real life. You can place an order and you will get that 10% discount. But if you were to order already a majority of, if you order over 40 aircraft, you will get a 20% discount. If you order 100% upfront, so you pay everything upfront for an owned aircraft, you get another 6% discount, plus the launch discount, of 10% could bring you up to a 36% discount. And this is a huge discount, and it can make you a big advantage over your competitors if you have the cash to invest into this. For popular models, you'll see aircraft valuations, they go up over time as well with inflation. In certain period of the game, the inflation is higher than others. So yes, you can get a huge benefit by using launch discounts, and in general other discounts as well, by ordering bigger quantities up front and paying more up front as well. And this is kind of linked to point 44. If you're in an alliance, or you don't have to be in an alliance, you tend to find that people will help each other with aircraft models and buying, and it can be very lucrative to buy and sell aircraft to other players, specifically when you order aircrafts. I'll say in the jet age era, some of the early jet models there tend to be quite cheap, but they take a good 4 or 5 years before they deliver. Inflation kicks in. Now if you take into account the discounts that you can get up front plus inflation, you can sometimes make 100% profit margin on the aircraft, and you're still selling it competitively to your alliance players within the alliance minimum and the alliance maximum pricing setting. So it can be very lucrative. You're also helping your teammates, but you're also making a good margin on top of this. So um, it is a nice additional income, but you also need to make sure you focus on your own airline as well and make sure that you bring those in as soon as possible. Now, point 45 I find very important is focus on your own airline. Be patient and discuss tactics with alliance members. So what I mean by that is so many people, they get obsessed with what their competitors are doing in their own base, and they keep focusing on what the competitors doing rather than what they're focusing on what they should be doing themselves. They will react to every order someone else makes. They will react to every route somebody else decides to fly, and at the end of the day you start losing focus on your own airline. You start making decisions, start making changes that you didn't necessarily plan in the long term, and it will affect the profitability of your airline. So I'd say be patient, don't make rash decisions, and it's always good to run tactics past other players in your alliance just to understand, is this a good move, is this not a good move, and generally listen to advice that gets given. So a lot of players are experienced, and they will have learned from experience by making mistakes themselves in terms of what's good to do and what's not good to do. So as promised, I said I was going to cover also 5 points on cargo, and the first one is point 46, which is cargo is very lucrative, and usually it's a lot more lucrative in terms of profit than passenger flights. This is when there is heavy cargo. That's when you make the money, especially long haul. You got a lot more availability when with cargo to destinations. Like, you might not have a passenger demand, but certain airports where there's zero passenger demand, they will have cargo demand. So you've got more choice and less competition sometimes on certain routes for that. When you do cargo, point 47 is very important, is to understand the city-based demand model and how potential and actual demand works. So the cargo is run on a new model called city-based demand. So it's between the demand between 2 cities. So it could have multiple airports in that region, whereas the passenger flights are still on the old model. So passenger will eventually go into city-based demand model as well, but we don't know when that will happen. But it's important to understand how that model works and how demands shift from potential into actual demands. There is another video I've created just to cover cargo, everything. So you'll find the link here as well to this video. I recommend you look into that because it clearly explains how the city-based demand model works and how potential and actual demands can shift. Point 48 is that unlike passenger, cargo doesn't care when your plane takes off, when it lands. So you can use the red-eye flights, you can leave in the middle of the night, there's no problem with that. It also doesn't care whether you stop once or twice, whereas passengers, generally don't like to have stopovers in the later eras. In the early eras you can't avoid it, but over time you want to make sure that you don't have that for passengers. But with cargo, 1 stop, 2 stop, it's not going to have a penalty versus whoever goes direct. So it's worth keeping that in mind as well. Point 49 is with cargo, the range of the aircraft tends to be shorter than the passenger ones, purely because they want to keep the payload up as much as possible. You want to transport as much cargo as you can. So you need to know how to do efficient tech stops. So when you do a stopover somewhere, you want to make sure it's in the right path and you're not making a huge diversion and adding 30% versus flying a different route. So you got to make sure you understand which bases you want to stop at to make the most efficient scheduling. I haven't done this yet, but I will create a video on how to do efficient tech stops. So keep an eye out on my channel to check out this video, how to efficiently schedule where you need to do the tech stop and how I go about it in terms of finding the best stopover places. And finally, the last point is it's kind of linked to point number 47, is understand how the airport catchment area works. So each airport has a catchment area for the city it's in, and the bigger the infrastructure level is or becomes, the bigger the circle around that airport comes. But that could mean that you're starting to overlap with other airports nearby. So some of the demands might be moving from one airport to another if you're not flying it. So you got to not just look at the demand from your airport to a destination, but also from the airports nearby, and a similar approach to your destination if they got multiple airports nearby. So that's really important to understand how the catchment area works, and it's linked to point number 47. Again, this is covered in my cargo tutorial, so keep an eye out, have a look at that video and you will see how really the airport catchment area works. So those were really my top 50 tips. I hope they were helpful. If you've got any questions or you have any other advice you would need, just leave a comment below. Don't hesitate to reach out to me on here or on Airwaysim. I hope you enjoy these videos. Just don't forget to like it if you did, and keep an eye out for more videos, so subscribe and click that bell for any notifications on my channel. And thanks again for watching.